Welcome back, high school hockey fans, for another edition of This Week in Wisconsin Prep Hockey. Mike Hammett, your host, along with Bill Berg and Bill Berg Jr., and also Dan Bauer along for the ride tonight as we talk all things high school hockey. Let's start out covering a couple things that went on last week, our games of the week. We'll get to River Falls and Eau Claire Memorial in a moment, but right now, Dan, you had the chance to watch Western Wisconsin and St. Croix Valley.
Yeah, I made the trip over to River Falls to a big sectional game, Section 2. They're both in the same conference together, so a pretty big game. Western Wisconsin had been on a really good run. Had won 6 in a row. The Fusion had kind of been stumbling a little bit at I think 5-4 in their last 9 games. So an interesting battle between the two. The Fusion would end up with escaping with a really hard fought 2-1 win. Ironically, the same time that Matt Cranston was coaching the Fusion against Western Wisconsin, about a mile away down at UW River Falls, his brother Joe was coaching the UW River Falls women against Gustavus. So that was kind of interesting. I mean, those two brothers, I don't know if there's anybody in the state brother-wise that will ever or have as many wins as those two have. They have 920 wins between the two of them. Joe has been the head coach at UW River Falls. This is his 26th year. Last year they were undefeated, Division III national champions. And so it was an interesting talk to Matt quite a bit before the game about that and about his brother and the two of them. He said they get together every morning and work out, and he said we just talk hockey nonstop the whole day, the whole time we're there. The River Falls team, actually, Ellie Bryce played at Western Wisconsin. She was part of that national championship team. And then Jordan O'Connor, who played with the Sauk Prairie Boys, was also on that team that won last year. Joe was a former boys coach. He coached at Somerset for quite a few years. So I actually got to coach against Joe when he was at Somerset, and I was at Spooner, and then got to coach against Matt when he was with the Fusion and my gigs with the girls. So, but Matt is currently the dean of high school coaches with 339 wins, active coaches. So coaches always talk about starting on time, and Western Wisconsin did not start on time in this game. They got outshot in the opening period 12-1. The Fusion got 2 players in behind their defensemen. In the first period, Morgan Keevil got in first and scored on a breakaway. And then Jane Volgren, who was a very good goal scorer for the Fusion, picked up a puck at her blue line, attacked both the defensemen, just sort of pushed it past both of them, and then somehow found her way, kind of wiggled her way between both of them and got in alone. For the second breakaway of the period, she also scored, and the Fusion had a quick 2-0 lead in that game. Second period, Western Wisconsin did come out, played much better, actually outshot the Fusion 17-5 in that period. So it was 2 very different periods. Western Wisconsin's Ashley Jensen, she's a great goal scorer for them and had been on a really hot streak, but she got loose for 2 breakaways in the second period, but she was not able to score on either one of them. Sophomore Caitlin Gustafson, this is the third time I've seen her play, and she was very good again, very solid. She's been kind of moved into the number 1 spot for the Fusion right now. Senior Anna Woolley is working her way through a major concussion right now, and according to her coach, they're not sure if she's going to make it back before the end of the season or not. And of course, she was the primary goalie last year that led the Fusion to state with a 16-7 record. So Gustafson, for a sophomore, has stepped in and played really well in her place. Western Wisconsin finally got on the board. Power play in the second period. Gabby Thompson, a really nice one-timer from the top of the circles. It got a pass from Jensen all the way from one side of the ice to the other, and just one-touched it, one-timed it, and she scored. Thompson's a really fun player to watch. I think she's going to be someone to keep an eye on in the future. It was only her third goal of the year, but she also has 10 assists. But good skill, skates really well. So the end of the second period was 2-1. Fusion still hanging on to that lead. Third period, Western Wisconsin pushed, pressed, came out hard again in the third. Not quite as dominating. They outshot Fusion 9-3 in the third period. The Fusion was just very good at getting the puck 200 feet away from their net and making Western Wisconsin have to work their way all the way back to the other end. Chris Lepper, the head coach for Western, had a great quote, I thought, at the end of the game. He said, have to come to play 51 minutes, otherwise you go home with a loss in our conference. So he was pretty spot on. Disappointed in how his team came out, obviously, in that first period. The Fusion, I thought the line that really made the difference for them was probably, I would say, their third line: Ella Stanley, Taya Peterson, and Kendra Harmon. And they were good all night. I mean, they played the coach Matt rolled three lines, and they were out there. They had a lot of energy. They really did a nice job. I thought they were one of the keys to the win for the Fusion, and Matt agreed after the game that they were real important to them. Western Wisconsin, another tough loss, 1-goal loss. If you look at them, dig into their schedule a little bit, they played out of their 20 games that they played so far, they played 9 Minnesota teams, and then they played 5 Wisconsin teams that have been ranked in the top 4 all year: Bay Area, Central Wisconsin, the Fusion twice, and Hayward. They also played Black River, CFM, and Eau Claire. So really look at their 20 games, and 17 of them have been against really, really good opponents. So we'll see how that helps them out when they get to playoffs here in a couple of weeks. But fun game to watch. Wildcat Center, a really nice building over there in River Falls. I mean, to have 2 really nice rinks like they do, that's pretty nice.
Hey, Dan, thanks a lot for the report on that game. It sounded like it was a pretty good game. Let's see, we got even more talking about River Falls. River Falls at Eau Claire Memorial was the boys' game of the week, and Burglars got a little bit on that.
Oh, thanks, MJ. We looked at it, and on paper, anyway, it looked like a good game. Eau Claire Memorial's in third place in the Big Rivers Conference, and River Falls is right behind them in fourth place in that conference. So we sent our Cub reporter, Cade Marshall, to that game, but it did not live up to our advanced billing. Eau Claire Memorial scored twice in the first, and then 4 goals in the second period pretty much wrapped it up. Gabe Pankratz, as usual for Eau Claire Memorial, was a dominant player in that game. They ended up beating River Falls 7-1. And it really wasn't. The first period was fairly even, but after that it was just all Eau Claire Memorial. So there's a nice write-up, details and stuff on the site. Cade Marshall does a nice job covering games for us over there in the western part of the state that we have trouble covering. So he's got an article up there on it. But yeah, Eau Claire Memorial took care of business against River Falls.
Speaking of Eau Claire Memorial, I don't have it right here, but the conference are in the Big Rivers. Who's leading that conference right now? Is it Hudson?
New Richmond.
New Richmond right now is leading that. New Richmond, who is now Division I, so now they should be leading that conference, right?
And
I think they won it 2 years ago when they were still a D2 team.
Yeah, they won it 2 years ago, and then Chippewa Falls came back and won it last year, and now New Richmond is on top of it again this year.
Hudson's right behind them in second place.
Okay. All right, Burglar, thanks for the update on the River Falls at Eau Claire Memorial. Our games of the week last week. Time to move on to our Best Western Premier Park Hotel Girls Player of the Week. Dan Bauer, you have our girls winner.
Yeah, actually, just talking about her. Our Best Western Park Hotel Girls Player of the Week is Caitlin Gustafson from St. Croix Valley Fusion. She's a sophomore from Baldwin Woodville High School, and she had a 3-win week and 1 loss at the very end of the week. But she beat Western Wisconsin 2-1, as I just talked about. She had 26 saves. Beat Hudson 4-1. She had 24 saves. Fox Cities, they beat 2-1. She had 30 saves. And then on Saturday, they lost to the Warbirds 4-2. She had 17 saves, allowed 3 goals. One was an empty netter. So for the week, she had a 94 save percentage, which is pretty decent save percentage. And like I said, for a sophomore who was really getting her first really big look at big minutes this year, she's done really well. Last year she played 1 period in 3 different games, and then she got 1 start in February against Eau Claire area, and actually pitched a 25 save shutout in that game. But she started this year splitting time with Anna Woolley, and then since the concussion, she's taken over. And she's been 5-3 since being the number 1 goalie right now, and sounds like she might be for the rest of the year for St. Croix. 2 other nominees this week: Jenna Jones. She had the game-winning goal in a 2-1 win over Brookfield on senior night, and she's a senior. She also assisted on the other goal. And then Olivia Webster, who is really coming on, really scoring a lot of goals for the Hayward Co-op. She had 4 goals last week. Hayward had a big week. They went 3-0 on the week and ran their win streak of the year, or their current win streak, to 9 games. So congrats to Caitlin Gustafson, the Best Western Park Hotel Player of the Week.
Yeah, and as I'm looking here, she played Tuesday, she played Thursday, she played Friday, she played Saturday. And for the week to have a 942 playing 4 out of 5 days, yeah, that's pretty worthy.
Yeah, it's a busy week. That's there. It's funny if you look at schedules right now. Teams are either in that mode where they're playing 3 or 4 games a week, or they're playing 1 a week, and it's just like, I guess that's philosophy of coaches and what you want to be doing at this time of the year, and everybody looks at that differently. I always wanted to be playing more games right now, because as the season gets on and long, kids would rather be playing games than practicing. So I kind of tried to have heavy practices early and more games at the end. But again, it's every coach has their own theory there.
Well, I think some of that may be, coaches left some room in their schedule for the latter part of the season, to allow for makeup games. And some of the teams have makeup games from games that were postponed earlier, and some of them do not. So, those that didn't miss any games earlier, they have light schedules now. And those that have to make up some time, are probably doing that.
Yeah, some of it can depend on your athletic director and whether you are allowed, how much say you are allowed to schedule. I scheduled all my own games since I was in Spooner. Most of my ADs were like, "You want to schedule your games? Great. That's one less team I have to worry about. Go get after it." So, but some don't give that up. Some coaches don't want it. So if you have a good AD, they'll do a good job of spreading your games out. But sometimes ADs are just more concerned about just filling the dates than really looking at where everything falls.
Okay, our Best Western Premier Park Hotel Boys Player of the Week. Burglar, you've got one that's, wow, this guy's pretty good.
Yeah, we knew eventually he was going to get Player of the Week. His teammate, the other half of Brookfield's dynamic duo, Connor Hillig, was Player of the Week back in early December, and this time we have Cooper Simon. They are both in the top 10 in scoring in the state, and Cooper Simon, to do a little deep dive, like like Dan likes to do here. I mean, Cooper Simon is actually committed already to play D1 hockey for Western Michigan, and he's already the property of the team up in Eagle River, the Wendigo, the Eagle River Wendigo, or whatever they.
Yeah, Wisconsin Wendigo.
Wisconsin Wendigo. Yeah, he's committed. They have his rights in the NAHL, and then D1 for Western Michigan for Cooper Simon. But this week, he had a goal and 3 assists in a 10-2 win over Whitefish Bay, Nicolay, Shorewood. And on Saturday, he had an he had 2 goals and 4 assists in a win over the Muskego Ice Force. And on Sunday, a rare Sunday game against Culver Academy, he had a goal and an assist on the game winner in overtime in a 3-2 win over the Culver Academy high school team down there in Indiana. So Cooper Simon of Brookfield is our boys' Best Western Premier Park Hotel Player of the Week.
I know he's already property of the Wisconsin Wendigo, but boy, he'd look good in a Janesville Jets jersey. But it's not going to happen.
I'd rather see him play for the Wendigo because they're not
No,
3.5 hours from
no,
me.
no. All he had to do was come down I-43, just jump over on Highway 14, and he'd have the time of his life. But
I think
what
the Wendigo drafted him or something. I don't think he had much say in it.
And I will say there's a lot for him to do up in Eagle River. I mean, while he's between game nights, there's snowmobiling and nothing else. Ice fishing, maybe.
Well, I'll tell you what. You'll like playing in the Dome, no doubt about that.
I love that place.
All right, did we go over our rest of the nominees, guys who were nominated?
Sorry, I did not do that. Yes, also nominated this week were Calvin Lukowski from Black River Falls, Tyler Bars of Mosinee, Nate Spencer of Ram Hockey, and Eli Schwartz from KMMO were other nominees. So it was a good crop of nominees. The last few weeks, we've been getting a lot of nominations. Keep them coming in. A lot of deserving performances out there every week.
All right. Top sixes. Everybody's heard enough about everything. They want to know what the top sixes are for this week after Junior has sat down and counted it once, twice, maybe 3 times. Bill Jr.,
Wow. Google
What's
Sheets
that?
does the actual counting.
What's that?
I said Google Sheets does the actual counting.
Okay. Well, you've got the top sixes, and go ahead and give them out.
We are at that point in the season. The Division II top 6 did not change this week. Tomahawk, Somerset, McFarland, River Falls, Amory, and Ram, just like it was last week. Also receiving votes in Division II this week were Black River Falls, their first appearance of the year, I believe, and Mosinee. So the Division II did not change a lot. Baldwin Woodville didn't get any votes this week. They have been getting votes pretty consistently. They had been in the top 6 for quite a while, but they fell out this week. Tomahawk was not unanimous this week. McFarland got a first place vote again, which has been happening over the course of the season.
Yeah, Black River Falls.
They beat Amory.
They beat somebody.
Amory.
Yeah.
They beat Amory. Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, Amory was, I think, poised to make a move, and then they got beat by Black River, which kind of kept them right where they're at. But they were on a pretty good roll there for a while.
You can look at it as a positive or a negative, but one of the things I like about Division II hockey is that because these are all smaller towns and smaller schools, the teams aren't as deep. So it's harder for a team to roll through the season. Like they can lose games that you're like, how did they lose to them? And it's just like that can happen. You know, your second line has a bad night, your first line has a bad night. All of a sudden, you're losing to a team that might have surprised you previously.
Or like what you said happened last week when uh, Tomahawk put their best 5 players on the ice against Fond du Lac Springs top line and pretty much neutralized them.
Yep. And then you just hope your second line holds on. It's kind of fun. Moving on from D2 to the girls. The girls' top 6 is the same as it was last week. Bay Area is unanimous number 1, followed by Central Wisconsin, Superior, Hayward, St. Croix Valley, and Western Wisconsin. Also receiving votes this week were the Chippewa Falls Menominee girls and the Warbirds.
Yeah, the Bay Area, I think they been number 1 from day one. I can't remember
Yes.
going back to the first bowl, have they?
Yeah.
I mean, they won 15 straight games. They're 19-1. Pretty hard to do anything with them right now. I think would say most coaches would say they're the odds-on favorite at this point, but we still got a ways to go. They have the stingiest defense, only giving up 0.8 goals a game. The Storm, 18-3. They have the best offense. They're scoring at 5.2 a game. Their power play is 35%, which is pretty good for a high school power play. Gabby Heiser, the senior for the Storm, kind of had a big week. She, on I believe it was Tuesday, she broke the all-time goals scored record for the Storm. And then on Saturday down in Madison, she broke the single season record for goals. She got her 32nd and 33rd of the year. The record had been 31. She's going to go play at MSOE next year. She's kind of a little bit of an interesting story. As an 8th grader, she played hockey, organized hockey. She played men's league hockey in Wausau, and then came to the Storm as a freshman. And I was on the staff at that point. We had no idea what we were getting with her. And she ended up scoring 16 goals as a freshman, 21 sophomore, 17 as a junior, and then she's at 33 and counting right now. So she's won 2 state titles, and she also won a U19 national title with the Selects. So she's had quite a career. Superior 18-3. They took another really hard loss, got beat by Proctor Hermantown 8-0. If you remember back, they got beat pretty bad by Grand Rapids a couple weeks ago. Hermantown's 5th in Minnesota single A rankings, so nothing to be ashamed of there. Hayward's won 9 straight. They're 16-5-1. They had a really good week. They beat Eau Claire, they beat the Warbirds, they beat Fox City in double overtime. Reese Sheehan got her 29th goal of the year in overtime to win that one. Fusion had a good week. They won 3, like we talked about, then lost to the Warbirds. Kennedy Coleman had 37 saves in that game against the Fusion. And then Western Wisconsin, they hung in there even though they got beat by the Fusion, and then went over and lost to Cottage Grove last week in Minnesota. So yeah, the Warbirds, I think Chippewa Falls Menominee is a team to keep an eye on. I mean, they basically skate 10 kids for the majority of their games. But they've won 7 of their last 9, and they've got some players that can really play. Black River Falls, I think, is still hanging around, and then Lakeshore Lightning are still there. They're 13-6-1. Their next win will set their school record for most wins if they get their next win.
Yeah, and I looked it up, Dan. Tomahawk, Bay Area, and Spash have been number 1 every week this season. Bay Area has been unanimous number 1 since the 2nd week of the season. Spash has been unanimous number 1 since the 2nd week of the season. Tomahawk Division II had some squabbles in there. Tomahawk still not unanimous number one, but otherwise those three teams have been number one all year, and two of those three have been unanimous number one since the second poll of the season, which is like the fourth week of the season. Then moving on to Division One, Spash, as I just mentioned, is unanimous number one. Brookfield is still second. Neenah is third. St. Mary Springs moves up one spot to fourth. Wausau West comes into fifth. They did not appear in the top six last week. And New Richmond holds on to the sixth spot, also receiving votes for Hudson and Madison Edgewood. Hudson fell out of the top six, vacating their spot for Wausau West this week.
Yeah, I think we were all possibly a bit surprised that Neenah didn't move up after taking Spash to overtime.
Yep. I was surprised they didn't move up after taking Spash to overtime, but on the other hand, Brookfield did just beat Culver Academy, which is no small feat, given the history of that school and the NHL players that have come out of it. And then on Hudson's part, they lost 2-1 to Chippewa Falls, who's not having a great year. Good year, but not a great year like they had last year. And then they 4-0 win over Bayport. 4-0 win is nothing to sneeze at, but Bayport's also not having a strong season this year. So they fell out. The loss to Chippewa Falls probably had more to do with it than the win over Bayport.
Yeah, last year or the year before, those two games would not have negatively affected Hudson because I mean Chippewa Falls and Bayport were both, very powerful teams a couple of years ago. They're just
I mean,
not quite where
I
they
don't-
are now.
was it last year or the year before? I mean, Bayport was the number 2 team in the state behind only Notre Dame Academy. I mean, the year that Notre Dame Academy went wire to wire undefeated, their two best games, I think it was 2 years ago, their two best games of the season were against Bayport. Bayport took them to overtime, I think twice that year. But yeah, this year Bayport is having a down year, and now we've heard word that next year Bayport and Ashwaubenon might be a co-op. So that's disappointing. It wasn't that long ago that there were 5 teams in the Bay Area: Green Bay United, Bayport, Ashwaubenon, Notre Dame Academy, and De Pere. And it's possible that next year there will only be 3. So nobody wants to see that.
Oh, that's definitely a trend we would like to all see reverse, I think.
It is, and just like I was looking at youth programs around the state, Green Bay Bobcats youth hockey is one of the larger youth programs in the state. It covers 4 school districts: Green Bay, Howard Suamico, which is Bayport, Ashwaubenon, and Pulaski. And if you look at the populations of those cities, somebody needs to build a rink in Howard or Suamico, and Bayport needs to have its own youth hockey program. It's big enough. In terms of size, it's roughly equivalent to Sun Prairie or Beloit. You'd like to see a youth hockey program there separate from Green Bay, just like, Verona, Middleton, Sun Prairie, all those cities around Madison that have their own youth programs and aren't just playing with Madison. I'd like to see that, but someone's got to build a rink for that to happen.
I think once upon a time, Howard or Suamico, maybe together, they had a youth program, but it was an outdoor program and they never did get an indoor rink built.
As we're looking here at Division One, the last 2 years, we've had Notre Dame Academy win the state championship, and when you look at it right now, they're not even honorable mention. But you know what? Come playoff time, they're still going to have to be reckoned with.
And that's a deep section. Notre Dame, Neenah, Hortonville, Menasha, and St. Mary Springs are all in that same section this year. That's going to be a slugfest. Any one of those teams could win that. I mean, even though Notre Dame's not ranked, they are more than capable of hanging with Neenah and Springs. push come to shove. You know, that's still a really good hockey team.
And they seem to, like MJ said, they seem to find an extra gear in the playoffs.
Section 1 will be equally like that, even with more power probably than not. With you look at the players in that sectional, that's going to be pretty competitive. Also, I mean, points obviously the front runner, but there's a lot of teams in there. I'm guessing can take them down too. So it's too bad that we're not. We maybe don't want to go down that road, but we really need to take 8 Division I teams to Madison.
I think we'll have 3 divisions before we have 8 and 4.
Well, I think we really need to take 8 Division I teams to Green Bay.
Yeah, I am not any way, shape, or form a fan of 3 divisions. I just think that's ridiculous, but that's just my take. I just see no reason for that.
I
And
don't. I believe. I don't want to misquote him. The week that Brian was here, Coach Brandt was here. I believe he said. I mean, the coaches association's preference is 8 and 4, but I believe he said that there was as much support for 3 divisions as there was for 8 and 4.
I think the push for the 3 divisions is coming from the WIA and from what I have seen and people I've talked to, and I still don't understand the math why.
I mean, some of those mid tier population wise school districts will support that. They're like, you know, we're never going to compete with Spash, or we're never going to compete with Middleton, but you know, we can hang with Wisconsin Rapids, we can hang with DC Everest.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've reached a point where it's just we somehow want it all to be fair, and I just don't know that that's how sports were intended to be. Like, I mean, maybe
It'd be nice if we had.
Make your program better. I don't know. I mean,
It'd be nice if we had 196 teams like Minnesota does and had 2 8-team tournaments, but you know, we're never gonna get there.
yeah. Well, I
No.
mean, I just think there's so much emphasis put on whether or not a team can make it to state or not, and I mean, I don't know. I don't want to see. I do not want to see 3 divisions. I just don't see the need for that. But
I would
Well,
rather
even-
see 8-4, but I don't have a vote.
Even when you look at, you know, would it even work out at a facility like Middleton though?
If the boys bracket changes at all, 8 and 4, 4, 4 and 4, they will to do that. They have to decouple the boys and girls state tournaments. That's pretty much a given.
If they keep it in
In
Middleton.
Madison,
in a single rink facility, in a single sheet.
Right.
If there's 2 sheets, the whole world opens up. But if you're playing on a single sheet, then any change to the boys is going to have to decouple those 2 tournaments, or the schedule just becomes like teams are showing up on Wednesday and like they don't want to take them out of school that much. And I mean, it's not like baseball where a guy's arm might fall off if you let him play too much.
Well, the WIAA would never decouple the boys hockey from the girls because the girls as a standalone thing would never get to the TV coverage. They just wouldn't.
oh, I agree with that.
Putting them all, I mean, the boys, even the boys, they only get the championship games. They're not even, you know, they're not even worth putting the other games on. But the only way they can do it is to have them all on the same day.
I mean, I believe, I don't know if in terms of raw athletes, but in terms of programs, girls hockey is the smallest WIAA sport with only 27 teams. And even lacrosse, which started last year, I believe they have 37 girls programs playing lacrosse.
Is that also including gymnastics?
Doesn't like every school have gymnastics?
Not anymore.
I mean, gymnastics is 2 divisions, so there's more than there are for hockey.
Okay.
But the girls hockey, they are enthusiastic. I know whenever we put up our players of the week and stuff, we get a whole lot more comments from the girls' side than we do from the boys' side. The girls hockey fans are rabid.
And I just want to make sure we've spent a lot of time over the years criticizing girls hockey. We're never criticizing the players. I love watching girls hockey. Those girls are they're out there playing. That's great. But the co-ops and the no effort at breaking up any of the co-ops, it's a problem.
Yeah, it needs to
Well,
be addressed, but I don't know if the WIA is not gonna do it, or if they do it, I'm afraid of what their solution might be, but.
I mean,
well, coming
I
up.
don't I don't know how much they look at the rosters when they submit like a co-op request for the year, but if a school sends their co-op request in and there's 40 girls, co-ops are only 2-year commitments. There has to be a combination of schools where 40 girls can make 2 teams. There has to be.
Coming up this week on our upcoming games of the week, Saturday, I'll be traveling over to the Ponds in Brookfield to watch Brookfield and University School. A couple old friends get together. And on Saturday, Superior and the Storm. Who's going up to that one?
I am.
You
Or
are.
burglar
Okay.
is. One of us is.
Maybe
Gonna
even
take-
both of us. I don't know.
Somebody's got to take pictures. Maybe
My-
I'll get. Maybe
My
I'll get the,
sister's 50th birthday party is right after that game ends. So whichever one of us goes to that game, if one or both of us, as soon as the game is over, we are driving to Anago for my sister's 50th birthday party, which we neglected to take into account when we were setting the game of the week. But that game's at 2, so it worked out.
yeah, should be able to make it up there. Our
As long as they don't go into overtime.
our final thoughts section here now as we're getting near the end of the show here. Guys, we're in February now. And seasons went pretty fast. I mean, you guys have put a lot more into it this year than I've been able to. And when you look at it, this season's just kind of went fast, but now it gets really interesting.
Yeah, this is a stressful week for coaches, I think, because it's seeding week and
Ah, yes, it is.
get all your stats put together and you got to send them out to all the rest of the coaches. Then you got to get in and dig through everybody's schedules and start to put together your ratings and how you're gonna rate everybody, rank everybody. And you usually have some games going on at the same time, and then you got to vote for all state, and it's a pretty hectic time of the year. There's just a lot going on for coaches, a lot of plates spinning that they have to keep going. So it's a pretty stressful week.
The Badgerland Conference Tournament is this weekend. The following weekend, the last weekend of the season, I believe the Great Northern and Middle Border are playing their conference tournaments. So
I don't
those
know if you guys have noticed, but in the Big Eight, Verona and Middleton have split, and they are now both tied for the Big Eight lead. Somebody gonna upset somebody? I'm probably thinking not. Looks like they're gonna end up sharing it.
I was thinking about the Great Northern Conference tournament. Some of the coaches don't like it because the way the 2 divisions work out, 7 of the 8 teams in the Great Northern Conference are in the same section in the Division II tournament. So they basically play this tournament 2 weeks in a row, or 3 weeks in a row, because playoffs take 2 weeks. I'd like to see a conference play their conference tournament at the start of the season instead of the end. Because every conference that plays a conference tournament gives out 2 championships. They give out the regular season championship for their conference play through the season and the tournament championship. If you're going to split them up and have 2 championships, then it doesn't matter when you play the tournament. You could play the tournament at the start of the season. Seed your teams, play your tournament, work your conference games in after that. It doesn't have to be at the end of the season, right before you go and play those same teams in your sectional.
Well, if you're looking at the beginning of the season, then you're probably taking away from the Thanksgiving tournaments. That would be about
There's
the
not
opening.
that many of those. I mean, you don't have to do it like
Mm.
right away at the beginning of the season. You could
Okay.
wait till the first week of December.
Well, it doesn't even have to be. It doesn't even have to be right then. Like Bill's saying, do it before you do your regular games. But most of these conferences used to play each other twice. You know, they do the first round of games in December, and then they'd play their second round of games in January. Well, do all your conference games in December, and then, sometime in early January, do your conference tournament.
And then save the rest of January for a non-conference schedule.
Yeah.
You could make it work. Takes a little bit more effort. Dan scheduled all his games as a head coach. He didn't let his athletic director do it, but it takes a little bit more work. But if you don't want to play your conference tournament right before playoffs because you play all the same teams, you could make that work. I would hate to see. I don't know if there's a push for it now, but there was a push a few years ago for the Great Northern to go back to playing each other twice instead of playing a conference tournament, because they play the conference tournament and then go right into regionals and sectionals against the same teams. And I'd hate to see them stop for that reason. There's
Yeah,
other
just
things they
just change your time of scheduling it. Oh, the other thing going on this week, it's the last week to get your nominations in for the Hobie Baker Character Award. We do have that. We moved that back to the front page on the site again. Just if you need to find it quickly. Every team should have a player that has, every team has some player of high moral standards and good character that they should be able to nominate for that award. It is for seniors. Information for that is on our front page again. And also there's a Al Welling Memorial Scholarship. There's information on how to apply for the Al Welling Memorial Scholarship, and also requests for making donations to the Al Welling Memorial Scholarship Fund. Al Welling was a well-known hockey official down in the Madison area. Spent a lot of years developing and supporting youth hockey, and the scholarship fund has been developed to carry on Al's legacy. So the information for that, again, that's also on our front page, and there's also an Al Welling Memorial Scholarship Fund page under our senior category. If you go to the top menu on our site for the seniors, you'll find information about the Al Wellington Scholarship as well as the Hobie Baker Character Award. So those are both on that page for high school seniors.
Guys, I don't know if you guys paid any attention to golf this weekend, but did you know that Joe Pavelski won a Pro-Am golf tournament this weekend?
He is a very good athlete. I'm not surprised.
And Joe Pavelski, of all people, according to what they said on this broadcast, Joe Pavelski, a vote was taken of NHL players, and it just so happened that he was voted the number one hockey player to go pro in another sport? Yes, Junior, what you say is right.
I do recall that he did play on the Spash golf team when he was in high school. He was like their top player on Spash's golf team. I mean, being a top player on your high school golf team does not automatically, qualify you for professional status. But yeah, he's always been a good golfer.
Yeah, well, probably pretty good duck hunter too, because he looks like he spends a lot of time doing that as well. Guys, you got anything else you want to add before we get out of here?
No,
I think we've kept them long enough.
I say youth playdowns were this last weekend. Congratulations to all the youth teams going to state.
Okay. So for Dan Bauer, Bill Berg Jr., I'm Mike Hammett. Next week, we'll be right back here with another edition of This Week in Wisconsin Prep Hockey.